parsha this week that we read on Shabbos, which was part of the preparation, part of the achana for Rosh Hashanah, that we finished with the klolos and we finished with the brachas, all before Rosh Hashanah, Tichla Shana Klolesel. So the pasuk says that there's going to be pen yesh bachem, a person who says, is Baruch B'vav Leimar Shalom Yili, that things are going to be fine with me, that all these terrible things that you hear about that were said in the parshas before, for me it's going to be good. Ki b'shriris libi eilech, I will follow the illusions of my heart, the desires of my heart. And then the pasuk says, Vayit leman tzvais haraves atzmeya. So you have a person who says that none of this is speaking to me. That's, for me, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to go on my merry old way, and everything is going to be fine. What is the Torah really being derish from the person? That it shouldn't. What is the flip side? What does the Torah really want? It shouldn't be b'shuras libi. What does the Torah want? So there's a Gemara that many of us know. The Gemara is a Gemara in Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Ches, and the Gemara says a ma'isa about Reb Chanina ben Trajan, that Reb Yosef ben Kisma was from the great Tanoim, became ill. So Reb Chanina ben Trajan went to visit Reb Yosef ben Kisma. Went to visit him. So he tells him, and he comes to him, and he sits down, and Reb Yosef ben Kisma begins to rebuke his Talmud, and he tells him, Shamati Olecha, I hear that you're makel kihiles berabim, that the Romans, the enemy, has banned the learning of Torah, and avadagvis, we shouldn't stop learning Torah, but why do you have to do it in a public setting? Why does it have to be that you gather people publicly? It's like putting it in the face of the enemy, it's in the face of him, it's like sticking it to him. Why do you have to do that? And the Gemara says that Rabbi Chanina ben Akana told him, Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan told him that Shamati Alacha, that Yoshev Isaac B'Torah Makel Kilas Berabim. So he told him, Dvarm Shel Tam. So he answers it back, Eiber Shel Tam Rachmanas, Ben Hashemayim Yirachmeu. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma tells him that I tell you Dvarm Shel Tam, and you give me such a reason. And the Gemara goes on weiter, and we know the end of this story, that ultimately he was captured, he was taken prison, and he was burned alive, and he died al Kiddush Hashem. The Gemara, in the same conversation, turns and the Gemara says that Reb Chanina ben Trajan asked Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, Ma ani l'olam haba, what is my portion in the next world going to look like? He wants to know how am I going to fare in the next world? So he tells him, Klum ma'aseh ba liyotcha. So Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma says, Klum ma'aseh ba liyotcha, tell me something, tell me about yourself. So he tells him that Mois shel tzedakah, Mois shel Sudas Purim got mixed in together. He had money in his pockets. Money was designated for Sudas Purim. Money was designated for tzedakah, and the two monies got together, mixed together, and he didn't know what to do. And the Gemara says he went and he took all the money and he gave it away to tzedakah. As they state in the Gemara. So he tells him, Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma says, if that's the case, I should be equal, I should get an equal portion like you. That's a gvaldik ezach. And as a weiter, he's mishabeach this ma'isa of Reb Chanina ben Trajan. As a zok the Gemara. So the kasha is obvious, and that's in the Marshosh tells on the kasha. What do you look? Tell me, klum ma'isa baliyotcha. The Gemara just said is gvaldik mesiras nefesh for limud Torah, that he was, and ultimately that brought him to die al Kiddush Hashem and a shvera misa, difficult misa from the Saru Gemalchus. We say it on Yom Kippur. What do you mean klum ma'isa baliyotcha? The Gemara just said a phenomenal ma'isa, that things that he did. How could it be klum ma'isa baliyotcha? And then we pick on a trivial thing of not a trivial thing, but something which was involved a few dollars. What's it a pshat in such a ma'isa? So the Marsha says a pshat. The Marsha says that there's a Gemara. The Gemara says a Chazal that if a person only has limud Torah and he doesn't have anything else, so it's like Avodah Zarah. He's missing. He's lacking. Maybe we could say a different pshat. And the pshat paper perhaps is as follows. Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma said like this: a person is comes a unique situation. People have the ability to rise, Mesiras Nefesh, Kiddush Hashem. Perhaps we have that already in our DNA from Avraham Avinu, that he was ready to put Yitzchak on the Akedah, as they state in Svarim. But every Jew, you see, even during the Holocaust, that simple Jews did phenomenal things in the time of a Shverik Zera. That is a Gvaldik Ezach. But what Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma wants to know is, tell me about your essence. When it's not unique, and when it's not firedik, and when it's not a Gzeira, how do you conduct yourself? When things happen, tell me about how you conduct yourself, even in the small things. So Rabbi Yosef, Chanina ben Trajan says, well, he tells him a ma'isa about March Short Staka, which means that Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan stops to examine. And he says, well, why did this money get mixed together? Must be that the Eibishter wants me to give it all to Tzedakah, and therefore I'm going to give it to Tzedakah. When a person stops in his life and he's always thinking, what does the Eibishter want from me? That is the direct opposite of Bishriris Libi Eilech. Bishriris Libi Eilech means I'm going to do whatever suits me. I don't think about the Rabbeinu Shalom. I don't think what the Eibishter wants from me. Everything is good. Whatever I want, whatever suits me well, whatever fits for me, that's what I'm going to do. But what the Gemara tells you is that Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan was saying that Klum Ma'aseh B'Aliyotcha, that his whole metzias was that he always stopped to listen. The Eibishter is talking to him. The Eibishter is giving him a message. And therefore, the Gemara says, if that's how you lived your life, so Rav Yosef ben Kisman tells him, Havada Gevisi Havagvalda Kechelik and Olam Haba. We come now, we began already, B'Matzai Menucha Kidam Nucha Tchila, we're already Mamish in the Yemei HaRotzen, close to Rosh Hashanah, 4 days. This week is Rosh Hashanah. And last night we already didn't say V'inoyam because it's Isra Malacha. Rosh Hashanah is Mamish right here. It's at our tips. What does the Rebbeinu Shalom want from us? We live in a Meridik Shveret Kufa. Reb Shach once said in one of the when they had the summer, what was it called, Reb Asher? They got together in what was it called? Yarchei Kala. And one of the last Yarchei Kala that he spoke, Reb Shach said, he said that Eretz Yisrael is in a much greater sakana than the Yidden were during the Holocaust. He said in the Yidden during the Holocaust, there was a place to escape. You could run into the forest, you could try to hide. He said Eretz Yisrael is surrounded from every direction, and every 3 sides is enemies, in the south, in the east, and the north on the side. And then the other side is the Mediterranean, is the water. There's nowhere for us to run. And we see that even though we see that the Eibishter is doing Gvaldik and Nisim, but the Sakon is Gvaldik. Vifel Karbonis, how many soldiers, how many people, how many Shvuyim. It's a Gvaldik Shveret Kufa for us. We shouldn't get lost. And the Eibishter Zicher talking to us. He's talking to each and every one of us. Without getting into details, there's a Yerushalmi in Tainus. I saw the Yerushalmi in Tainus says that Rebbe Lezer says, "Im ein Yisrael lois in tshuva, ein negolim la'olam," that Klal Yisrael have to do tshuva. So one of the Amoraim answered back, but you have the tzaddikim, and he told them back, "Name the Eibishter wants that every Yid should do his own tshuva, his eigen tshuva." Rabbi say the Eibishter is talking to us. What the message is, veisach nish. But certainly is that we have to be mechazik, and perhaps be mechazik even in the small things, the small day-to-day things that we have to listen to, but that the Eibishter is talking to us. Just want to be Messiah. That I saw from a letter from the Netziv. And the Netziv was talking during the Milchemes Ha'olam. And then Netziv writes like this: he speaks about the Maisa with Chizkiyahu HaMelech, with Rav Shaka, the whole Maisa there with Nebuchadnezzar. So he says the same thing is true today. That the only place we have shade, we have comfort, we have protection is when a person is in the shade of the Torah. If the Am Hashem would be marbe lahaspik amelei Torah, if the Klal Yisrael would give the ability to the amelei Torah to sit and learn, that would be enough to protect every tzara and every meshisa. And he says this speaking about the World War, World War I, in Yenet Kufa. Rabbi say we should stop. We should think about the Yemei Adin which are coming. We should think about the small things, that klum ma'aseh b'aliyotcha, that a person should always resonate in his mind. Klum ma'aseh b'aliyotcha, even on the small things. And if a person hears the Dvar Hashem, he can hear that the Eibishter is speaking to him, and it's nish b'shrius libi, then avadagevis, we're going to be zeicha to alle brachas and all in yonim, and that we should be zeicha, everyone here, and the mishpachas, and the families, and the children, with gezunt, nachas, and parnasa, with the ksiva v'chesima toiva.
We're holding by slichas, just a short machshava. Everyone knows we have minimum of 4-day slichas. You open up a Mishnah Brura, there are 2 reasons. The second reason, the famous reason, that El Yerabba, the Torah brings down that korbanos have to be checked, have to be examined for 4 days. When you take a korban, you have to look over the korban for 4 days and make sure there are no mumim. The Mishnah Brura brings down every yontif we bring korbanos. It's a lashon of hikriv. because we take an animal and we bring it. Rosh Hashanah is different. Rosh Hashanah, we have a korban. The Mishnah Berurah says that korban is ourselves. We bring ourselves up as a korban. And therefore, we have to examine ourselves. 4 days, looking, seeing, what's wrong with us? How can we fix up our mistakes? And there are 2 things that I think need a little bit of explanation. What does it mean we're bringing ourselves as a korban? We're being moist and nefesh, we're giving up our lives like Kiddush Hashem. That's what Rosh Hashanah is about. We scream, Kosveinu b'seif ha'chayim, we all want life. So what's that korban that we're giving? Also, we know, it comes to Nagoyim, Ein Adam Roye Niga Atzmoi. You can't check yourself and see your Nagoyim, which means, unfortunately, in the world, if you have to look at someone else, we can always find, yeah, this guy does that wrong and that guy does this wrong. But to look at yourself and see what you do wrong is mission impossible. We can't see our own faults. And yet the idea of Slichas seems to be 4 days to look and find your faults. How do we look? Where do we go? How do we start? Maybe we get to a der Herr from one of the strange people in the times of the Tanoim. There's someone that was known as Elisha ben Avuya. Elisha ben Avuya was amazing, was brilliant. The Medrash Eicha says when he would speak, hundreds and thousands of people would be spellbound, caught up in his lumdus. The Gemara tells us in Chagiga, Tesvav, this amazing Tana, this brilliant mind, went over to a Zaina and said, and the Zaina said back, you're not Elisha ben Avuya? So this was on Shabbos. He pulled out a turnip from the ground and he said, look what I'm doing. Look what I'm giving you. And she said back, Acher at. You're someone else. A little bit strange. Let's go deeper. Gemara continues. Reb Meir. Reb Meir is the Tana Reb Meir. The Tana Reb Meir. Reb Meir was a Talmud Muvik of Acher. Reb Meir was following after his Rebbe Acher, hearing Torah. On Shabbos, Acher was on a horse, and Reb Meir was following along, walking along this horse that his Rebbe was on Shabbos, which is Aser, to hear words of Torah from Acher. And Acher's riding, Reb Meir's walking, Reb Meir's caught up in the brilliance, in the Torah, and the Shiurim. And all of a sudden Acher turns to him and says, Meir, Chazorbach, stop. Ad kan Tchum Shabbos. And Reb Meir turns to him like, wow, how did you realize exactly right here is Tchum Shabbos? And Acher says, like a middle of giving his whole Shiurim. The brilliance of Acher was with all the Shiurim. He was cheshboning from the horse how far every step of a horse is. He was able to figure out. And he's telling his Talmud, Reb Meir, stop. I could keep on going. I don't keep Shabbos. But you better stop. And Reb Meir, after hearing the words Chazorbach, turns to his Rebbe and says, Af at Chazorbach, why don't you stop also? Stop. And the Gemara says, Acher said, for me, it's too late. Shamati Baskel, I heard a voice, Yaitse, Me'achayre Kodesh HaKdoshim, Va'omar, there was a voice that said, Shuvu bonim shayvovim, chutz me'acher. Everyone could do tshuva. Everyone, beside Acher. I want to try to understand. First of all, how many people hear voices? I mean, Eli is a big tzaddik. Probably Rebellia heard the Pascal here and there. But most of us, we don't hear voices. We don't hear voices. Pascal Yaitze. What's this Pascal coming for? What's he supposed to gain from this Pascal? And maybe a little bit deeper. What are the words of the Pascal? Shuvu banim shevavim chutz me'acher? Acher? Who's this person Acher? The Pascal should say, Shuvu banim shevavim chutz me'elisha ben Avuya. Some Zaina called him Acher. So that becomes his name now? That's what the Baskel says? Here's the emesis. If you're looking at Yerushalmi, the Yerushalmi brings the story with a few more details. And the Yerushalmi, it's also in Chagiga, says, Shuvu Shabbat Shabbat Chutz Elisha ben Avuya. But which one was it? Was it Acher or was it Elisha ben Avuya? Maybe get to a big Yesod. And this Yesod maybe has to do with every one of us. Many times, people do things that are wrong. People do things they shouldn't be doing. And sometimes a person just looks at himself and says, wow, look how far I fell. Look what I became. And they don't recognize that's not them. That's not who they are. That's acher. That's a side thing. That's not their essence. That's not their core. They're kodesh. They're above this. Randomly, people fell. But don't identify yourself with that. Elisha ben Avuya was zoiche to hear a baskel from Hashem. Hashem told him, Shuvu bonim, you're my ben, you're my son, you're precious, you're choshev, you're important to me. Aber chutz me'acher, get rid of your garbage. Get rid of your external things that are not you, that not who you are. The problem is, Acher didn't realize. He couldn't let go of his addictions. He couldn't let go. He couldn't stop. Because he identified himself, this is who I am. I am the movies. I am the anger. I am the jealousy. My problems are me. And therefore he heard the Baskel as telling him, you are excluded. You are not right to do tshuva. When in reality Hashem was telling him the exact opposite. You are the most raw. You're a ben. Just give up your external that's not really you. Maybe back that's the avodah of slichas. The korban we're giving from ourselves. What's that korban? That korban is the acher. Everyone has achers inside them. And ein adam ro'eh nige atzma, you can't see yourself. But if you recognize there's a rider and there's an animal. My animal isn't me. Look at the animal. Look at the external. Let go of that external. Elekai neshamash nasata b'toirahi. We have inside us a piece. A chelik elekam emal. We might have fell. But don't let that identify who you are. And then we come into Rosh Hashanah, we're different. Everyone over here, I feel like, Baruch Hashem, no one's holding by achers. But there might be that acher that, I'm working, I'm doing. Some people work less, learn more. But sometimes people feel like, I'm the working guy. But I want to tell everyone over here, that's the acher. That's not who you are. It's not your core. It's not your essence. Your essence, who you are, you're a ben Torah. That's who you are. You're a part of a yeshiva. Yeah, people go on stages in life and they have to be mefanis. But that's where you have to remember, who are you? What you are. And when we come, we look for a new year, Rosh Hashanah. What we have to remember is there might have been external things that we did. But don't let it govern you and determine what you're about. Because last year, externally, you might have done this wrong. You might have got caught up in something you shouldn't have caught up with. You are above this. Because that wasn't really you. Disconnect. Hashem should give us the siyata d'shmaya to realize who we are. Who we really are. We're b'nei malachim. Shuvu bonim. Hashem's calling to us, you're all my ben. And with realizing this, recognizing ourselves, recognizing who we are and what we can do, we should all be zeicher to aksiva v'chsima teva.